Hello, my name is A.W Bainbridge. I am currently a graphic design lecturer at the University of Central Lancashire and have been for the past 21 years. And I'm going to do a little bit of a presentation on a project I did nearly a decade ago now. So a little bit of background. I'm from Cumbria or Westmoreland, as was, and I pursued a career in graphic design. But I was brought up on a hill farm in Cumbria and a sheep farm, and we did a lot of straw mauling on the farm. My brother's a Drystone mauler as well, and I got a chance to basically do a project about 10 years ago now at the university. So, and I'm going to talk through it basically. Yeah, okay. So let's share screen, shall we? So here we go. Hopefully we can see that. View, display, presentation format. Yeah, hopefully this will work. So 10,000 decisions and one aim. And that's what I've called the presentation. There's probably more than 10,000 decisions, I would imagine. But yeah, that's what I call the presentation. So this is the location. This is the Victoria building, probably built in about 1983, 84, I believe. Or completed then anyways. This is where we located the stone circle around this tree here. So this is the entrance. The installation, its aims really were to build upon and complement the existing estate's landscape strategy around the university, but also create a unique site-specific design feature at the heart of the campus. And create an area in which students and staff could relax, socialise and communicate. Further my own personal practice and development. So this is a plan, the Victorian building. I did a plan when I quickly measured it out. What's interesting about this project, I talked through, the measurement of something like this was done, not by eye, but a lot of it was done by eye, but very rudimentary measurements. So this was a rough plan after sort of like pacing it out and doing a little bit of measuring, a tape measure. The idea was to basically have one route coming in and then one route coming out on a path. This red section up here with the type in it is actually the actual building. So it's quite close, as you can see, about 3 foot from the actual building. And this is the grassed area in the park bench. So that's the plan. I did a little bit of a drawing, an artistic impression, if you will, just maybe of what it might look like, using rotary pens from an era back in the 80s, when before computers, when rotary pens were king, really. But fantastic things. I think you can still get them. Brilliant tools. So yeah, the circle was divided up into 34 facets, and the reason why that was will become clear in a minute. That's, and if you can see here, there's the path coming out and then the path coming in. So the reason it was divided up into 34 facets was because of the phrase I wanted to put on top of it, so the typography to finish it off. This is the initial type sort of designs I had for the top, because I was confident with building the wall, because I've done that many times before, building walls, and I've done previous circles as well. This is my 3rd circle, I think. So it wasn't, I wasn't treading uncharted territory. But one of the things that was a bit of a conundrum was how to finish it off. Because when you finish a stone wall off in the country, in a rural environment, you put things on called cams, either sort of diagonal bricks, diagonal stones, sorry. And that's normally around about chest height. But the thing about this within an urban environment, we had to sort of cement the top on. So there had to be some kind of flags on the top, and it was a good opportunity to put a message in there, possibly, or put some kind of word phrase. So I'll just go. There's 2 possibilities. The first one was what goes around comes round, which was something I was looking into. But really, the one that finally went for was this phrase here: "The beauty of nature exceeds all art," which was something that I'd actually kept. Literally, was on the back of a cigarette packet. I travelled around Australia in the mid-90s, and I was quite a heavy smoker in those days, but I used to collect sort of things. In Australia, on the rolling tobacco pouches at that particular time, they on the inside of the pouch, they'd put kind of profundities and sayings by famous people throughout history, and this was one of them. And I sort of cut it out and kept it. And that would be about 1995. I don't know why I kept it, but well, it came back 25 years later, or 20 years later, when I did this project. And then it's just my calculations down the side here, how many letters. There were 16 unique letters, and there was 4 A's, 2 V's, and things like that. So that was me just working out basically how it might work. This was sort of more of a refined typeface. Just working very kind of freehand, just to sort of like see how it would work. And they're the counters or the negative bits, because they become important in the project later on, because when I cast the top of the stones and to go on the top of the lettering. And that's the example of a T, for example. So I would draw those up, and what I did was, just to get an idea of it, I actually created the actual size of the flags, just to get an idea of the scale of it. And in the Victoria building, when you go in, there's a gallery. So I sort of took the opportunity to seize the opportunity to see how it would look. So these are actual size mock-up of using cardboard and white card and brown card. And then I sort of took it outside as well, to put it around a tree roughly, to see basically how it would work, just to get my eye in and get an understanding of the space, I suppose, and how it would work. It's crucial, really. Now, obviously, the other thing is need some stone. So I went back to Cumbria, up near Shap, and we had a look at some old walling that was redundant, and this is where I managed to procure probably about 20 tons, I think. I think it generally takes a ton a metre for walling. I think that's standard for chest height walling that you see in the country, ton per square metre. So just a rough estimate, and then we got some really quite nice sandstone from up there as well. This is sandstone. It's quite soft in one sense, and this is us collecting it. It was dropped off at the back of the Victoria building in Preston. This whole project, logistically, was only possible because of several things falling into place. One, we could actually get the stone pretty near the building. So this is the backyard, or the old sculpture yard at Victoria, and this is the stone being dropped off. So throughout this project, I handled the stone several times. So the first time I would handle it was barrowing it all into the back of the building. And what you see here is me grading the stone, going through the stone and putting it into rough piles of large, medium, small. And at the same time, there was quite a lot of soil that came with the stone, because just the way that it was actually put onto the truck, it was bulldozed on from the old wall. At the same time, I was very conscious of the fact that I needed some gravel. So I again went back up to Westmoreland or Cumbria, and I collected some gravel from the River Birbeck, which is the river that runs past the farm where I used to live. And every now and again you get sort of gravel patches on certain sides of the river. So I went into the river and basically just shoveled out 20, 30, 40 bags worth of gravel. I then had to grade that gravel as well on a micro scale, as opposed to the macro scale, maybe of the actual stone that was going to be used in the wall. So I sieved it very finely. So as you can see down here, what you have is really a miniature version of what you just saw before, really. And this was used for testing when we were casting the flags. So I had to get rid of the large stone. So these are some early shots of the testing. I had a lot of help on this from Neil Fawcett, particularly on this particular stage, where we created some boxes in which to cast the flags. We bought, I think, some cement, and I got some red colouring brick dye, which sort of matched the red sandstone of the actual natural colour. And then this is just basically casting them and putting them into the moulds. Letter T, just to see what worked, what kind of consistency worked. Now, I put this one here because just by chance, I mean, I started the job actually properly just by chance on the 21st of June, which is midsummer's solstice. And I didn't plan it that way, it just happened. So, but I'm a big believer in sort of serendipity. But so this is how it started, really. You can tell it's summer. You can see it's bedded in now. The grass is very much kind of parched. But I mean, it was done in a very basic way, just pegging out sticks around, as you can see, using a piece of string from the tree, and then cutting out the first sort of 3 or 4 inches down to get a foundation for these stones to go in. Some more details here, so I could then, once I've actually cleared the complete area, we can maybe put down some of the templates just to see how it would work. Now, if you can see up here in the top right-hand corner, the technicians helped me make a sort of perfect circle we could actually bolt around the tree to measure off, to give us some measure of actual accuracy. And that was great, because then I could use that as a sort of a centre point to bring the string off. And then I had a lot of help from the grounds people, John Ayrton and the ground staff. They had a mini truck, and they could break around the stone from the back of the building by graded stone. And this is starting, really. So this is, I would work with quite a bit of stone at a time. I wouldn't bring all the stone around. We bring a bit of large, bit of medium, bit of small. But ultimately, when you're sort of starting a piece of Drystone wall, you want the bigger stones at the bottom. And so this is putting the foundation work in there and just pegging it out. These are some more shots, and what you're about to see in the next few slides is a slow time lapse of it going up. But you can see that how it actually works, putting the wall together. Very basic tools are used. I had a sort of a hammer, lump hammer, tonguing chisel, spade, crowbar, and that was about it, really, at this stage, because it's really all about your eye. And looking at things like that. Now, what was interesting was at this point in time, this is the height of summer, and this was really unexpected. It was basically, as you can see, there's been a bit of a shower, but the grass seed that came in the soil began to germinate in these piles out the back of the building where I was grading the stone. So this was quite interesting. I would mix my cement in small batches when I was doing the flags on a piece of just a piece of old chipboard, really, that had been painted. And throughout this project, I was kind of photographing and documenting it every step of the way. So, that's really important, I think, for anybody who's doing any project, really, to document it on any kind of level. But, there's a circular motif that keeps appearing throughout this, because I would walk around and around and around in circles on this when I mixed the cement traditionally with a shovel, walking around, and using a kind of well, putting some water in it, and very much not using a cement mixer at all. Just doing it as it would have been done years ago. And then in the workshops, obviously having access to the workshops, these are some shots of how we actually went about creating the lettering. So we would have to think in reverse, which is an interesting story. Could be in a minute. I didn't actually do that initially. I made the schoolboy error of not thinking in reverse. So you're okay when some letters are kind of symmetrical, but when you're not, they're going to come out back to front. But what we do is we kind of like cut some MDF and chevron it slightly. These elements here, and then we would also cover them and coat the inside of the mould with oil. So therefore, we get a release. So each individual one of these was cut from a template. No laser cutting. It was all cut on the bandsaw. And as you can see, it was all going swimmingly until basically we knocked out the first ones. I thought, oh my God, it's back to front, you idiot. So there you go. You live and you learn. But so I took some photographs of these. But I mean, the cast was beginning to get there. I was beginning to get the consistency of the right amount of cement to the right amount of gravel. And there's some more photographs here of us taking the moulds away. I had to cast numerous ones. Sometimes they wouldn't work, or sometimes I might have to do 3 or 4 different E's or A's because they fell to pieces. They were not very brittle, but you had to be careful with them because there was no kind of metal kind of in there. You would normally put something in to sort of like mesh it together. But I didn't feel as though it needed it really, because as long as I was delicate enough with them and then get them cemented on, they were going to be supported by the wall. So back out to the wall. I mean, this is a little bit later on. I had to put a little bit of a fence around it as well. And this is it going up. It was never going to. It was always going to go to the height, probably just for sitting on. So around about 2.5 foot maybe. And the end pieces here, quite important. Some. And then, yeah, as you can see, it's beginning to take shape, as they say. So again, around, trying to keep it equal height as I'm going around. With walling, sometimes it's normally a 2-man job, one person on one side, one on the other. But when you're on your own, you've got to basically just keep going, trying to keep it the same height as you're going around, just to maintain some consistency. So here you can see we're beginning to get to the height that we need. This again, just to emphasise, this was all done by eye. So therefore, when I'm walling and walking around, I'm constantly using my eye to get an eye line and get a straight line. And here's some more. I had a bit of help and what you can see here from one of the ground staff, and we're beginning to cement them in at the top. So once it's all dry, until you get to the top where we have to cement it in. And also, you begin to come inwards like that as well. So it starts off. A Drystone wall normally starts off at 2 foot wide at the bottom and goes to 1 over the height of around about 4'5" or something like that, chest height. So that kind of gives it stability. Now, obviously, this didn't really need that, but it was good. I had to work towards the width of the flags on the top, which were around about a foot or so. So as you can see here, you can see that it's slightly triangulated. And then we're getting to the situation now where it was quite exciting. We can actually take the pegs up, and we had see whether it would fit the top really, the actual lettering. So this is putting the A on. There's Mr. Wilking, my colleague. So I think at this point, as you can see, it's beginning to become into its own. That's right. Yeah, I think at this point we had a bit of a break. I think I went on holiday at this point. But yeah, this is about the state of my hands. Were getting rougher and rougher. Not used to hard work, but it only takes 2 or 3 days to get back into kind of like your hands. Because I don't use gloves. I never use gloves. I always like to touch in the stone. A lot of Drystone walls use gloves, which is obviously probably quite a sensible thing to do. But I just like feeling the stone and having I don't like the wearing gloves basically. But I took a trip up to Haweswater. This is Haweswater, which is just near Shap. And this was dammed in the 1920s for the Manchester Water Corporation. Mardale, it's called. And in there was a small village, church, graveyard, pub, small community of hill farmers that all had to be moved in the 1920s when they built the dam and made the reservoir, which now feeds a lot of fresh water to the north of England. So I took some photographs up there while I was up there doing this project, having a bit of a break, basically. But the interesting thing is, it was every year, depending how hot it is, when the reservoir sort of begins to get drained slightly because of overuse and the heat, you can begin to see the old walls and the old enclosures from Mardale village and around there. In '76, the dry summer of '76, I remember going up there with my parents, and it was the lowest it probably had ever been. And there's a little humpback bridge that could be seen as well, which is a major feature. But a lot of people go down, you can see the old road. So I think it was quite interesting to sort of like photograph, a piece of Drystone walling that is underwater 90% of the time, but every now and again appears. So this is Haweswater Head going over. You would go to Ambleside roughly if you carried on over there. So I took some photographs down there. This is so remarkable how these walls remain standing really. But I suppose it's, the water's pretty much stagnant there. So some more photographs from there. And what I found interesting is that the grass begins to, the seeds lay dormant, and they're beginning to come up again, from what would essentially be the bed of the reservoir, really. Are very much like the sort of seeds coming in the back of the yard at the UCLan when I was actually doing the grading of the stone. So it doesn't take long for nature to re-establish itself. I think that's a fantastic positive thing, really. And this is interesting because it's a reservoir. There's no litter. There should be no litter anyway. You're not allowed to swim in the reservoir. It's not a recreational place. But every now and again, you come across something, and this was a piece of plastic tray that had obviously found its way there, but had drained away, and there was still some water in it. So you kind of have a reservoir there, in a kind of way, in a reservoir, if you will. So I thought it was quite an interesting photograph, really. Anyways, back at the job after my sojourn to Haweswater. This is a circular disc from the polishing machine in the silicates unit. So I was helped greatly by David Binns and Alistair Bremner, who showed me how I could actually sort of polish the stone, the lettering on the top, which gave it just that extra, took the edge off it in a kind of way. So these are, and I sort of polish each one. I don't know, it took half an hour for each one. And that was a great learning curve as well. So as you can see, you have the beauty of art, and it exceeds all nature. So this was when it was getting close to finish. But all the time, the grass was growing under my feet, as it were, or in the back. So yeah, and then the nettles were appearing, which was interesting. The amount of seeds, nettles were finding their way through. As you can see, the grass has grown quite considerably since the last shots of these came in. So I think it was a 2-week holiday, so it's showing how long the grass could grow in 2 weeks. So it's back onto the job here, and then begin to really sort of fine tune and level off the walls there using a piece of slate. And this is beginning to get to the bit where we were going to sort of cement on the tops, really. And when it came to cementing on the tops, I sort of used a rubber hammer. I had a paintbrush and a light brush, and also some sticks as well to be able to sort of like get into the cracks and things. So anything I could find that I thought was useful to me, really. And then we began to cement them on. I think this is it complete. I would imagine there's a bottle of beer here, so that would indicate them having some kind of topping off ceremony. There's a message in it as well. So most stonemasons or people who work on things like this will sometimes leave a message somewhere or their mark. I know that my uncle used to work on the motorways and the bridges and the flyovers, and he's a stonemason as well. And he was very good with stone, and he used to leave his mark here and there. So I thought I needed to leave some kind of mark on the piece of work. And there's a message really that I put underneath one of the flags. I think I took a photograph. I can't remember what it says at this point in time. And it goes. And obviously, I was thinking this where the ideas and the graphic design comes in. Really, what letter should I put it underneath? And it sort of became obvious in the end that it needed to be the X for obvious reasons. And then the finishing off of the path on the inside. So this is a point where we've got some MOT or MOT as they call it, sort of slightly clay aggregate with clay in it, and then beating it down. Now this is a point where we get some sets, so we're getting some actual sort of regular stone that's already cut, some stone sets, granite sets, and then this provided an opportunity to really create an interesting pattern. We need a lot of sand, obviously, sand and cement at this time. Dry mix, sand and cement, and just letting the condensation over a period of 2 or 3 days let the cement go hard. So this is the and as you can see, I was trying to basically get the darker blues into the lighter blues. Slowly going on, so you can see here, I'm putting the sand and the cement. And this is where kind of like your hands come in quite a lot as well, and patting it down. Got to be really compact. So there it is, almost complete. The idea was in the middle was to maybe plant some more of the grounds guys. The lads were going to put some soil in there. So I finished it off on the inside here with another row of sandstone. Little impromptu things out the back. This is some of the stone I didn't use. So just when I was tidying up at the back, I sort of like created a cairn out of maybe some of the more irregular ones that really didn't make the grade really. Now, also at the same time, I went back to Cumbria and sort of sourced some of these granite pebbles, which were high up in the Birbeck, tributary to the Lune. These are from Shap granite, well, they are Shap granite really, but they've rounded off through thousands and thousands of years of being churned up and around and ground away in the waterfalls up there. So these were sort of things I was going to use just on the way in and the way out of the stone circle. Now back to our ever expanding and growing piles of soil, which are now taking on quite epic proportions, really, and quite dangerous, really. The nettles were taking over, so they were kind of quite unapproachable. So here you can see we needed to finish it off in some kind of way, so we had to sort of. I thought, rather than the grass go right up to it, it would be nice to basically put one row of sets all around the outside. As you can see, some of the granite pebbles are coming in there as well. And here we are. Here we're sort of like, now we're getting very close. There's a time lapse, sort of some photographs and taking away the fencing and taking away everything that had been there for ages. So this is the big reveal, as it were. Really, we knew we were kind of like getting there at this point in time. And I took one or two photographs from far away. So, it's pretty. The land is on a slight fall, as you can see here, from left to right, from right to left down. So it's slightly less. It's taller here than it is here, just to keep the straight going. But I mean, I was quite satisfied with the actual look of it, really. And there, some more photographs. I think. So yeah, and I think just to finish up with, some of the sketches right the way through to the finished object, really. And it's been bedded in now for about 8 or 9 years, actually. So yeah, just to keep the circle motif going at the end there. So I hope you found that interesting and slightly enlightening. So if you're ever passing the University of Central Lancashire and you're going towards Victoria Building at the heart of the campus and you do see Drystone Wall, do sit at it, rest a while and ponder. But somebody did say to me after I'd made it, said, "Congratulations, Andrew, you've just made Lancashire's biggest ashtray." And I must admit that every time I walk past it now, it is slightly adorned on the inside with fag butts. But I don't care. You know what I mean? It's a very ornamental ashtray. Let's put it that way. Thank you very much.